Hello, and welcome to my second presentation. My name is Keone Wilkes, and today I'll be talking about youth gangs. So what is it? There's no single accepted definition, but one that is widely accepted is that it is a self-formed association of peers that have a name, a symbol, leadership, territory, meetings, and the intent to take part in illegal activities. Ages can range from 12 to 24, and usually the older members are typically involved in leadership roles in the higher ups. Approximately 14% to 30% of youth join a gang at some point in their life, and most feel that it equates to joining another family. 48% of gang members are African American, 43% are Hispanic, 5% are white, 4% are Asian, and 15% were of another ethnic background. And I know that that doesn't add up to 100%, but that's according to a 1996 study and rounding. So as of 2015, over 1 million youth gang members have been documented in the United States. Approximately 10% of those are female. So a life of crime. These youth gangs primarily focus on drug use, drug trafficking, and drinking. Most gangs are as ordinary as other friend groups, just that these take part in illegal activities. Violence is actually rare in most cases, and in those rare cases, the violence is directed usually at other rival gangs due to territory or turf wars. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, gang youths have accounted for 11% of all crime committed in total. The primary narcotics that they distribute are crack cocaine and marijuana, although we do see a spike in recent years towards contributing to the opioid crisis with pills all the way up until hardcore drugs such as heroin. Youth gang violence has also seen a recent spike, and this is usually in the metropolitan bigger cities. And you'll see that down in this diagram down below. You'll see that 57.3% of these gang members are in the larger cities, with the second place coming into suburban counties and so on and so forth. So in these larger cities, such as Los Angeles or Chicago, that's where you'll see most of these rival gang wars and a spike in violence. So primarily Hispanic and African American gangs engage in turf wars, and many gangs have also been reported to deal in firearms trafficking and other illegal money-making activities, such as gambling as well. So this is kind of the whole enchilada here. This is where most of these youth gang members end up. You'll see that most wind up in detention centers, about 18,000 of them. Others are locked away in long-term secure facilities. Some are even sentenced into adult prisons and jails. But the big number that I want you to focus on here is the residual treatment centers, about 11,000. This is due to the fact that most believe since they are kids, they have a long life ahead of them, and there's really no need to lock them away in a prison or jail when they can have an alternate method of treatment, such as drug rehab or halfway houses, as you see here in group homes as well. So that's the main number you want to focus on, because most people believe that they can turn their life around. So some notable youth gangs. Throughout my research, I've realized that most youth gangs are smaller sections of larger gangs, such as the Bloods and the Crips in the African American community. In the Hispanic community, you see gangs such as MS-13, the Latin Kings. And then one of the more notable youth gangs that I came across is the New Jersey Cross Kids. They're very violent and take things to the extreme when it comes to narcotic trafficking, firearm trafficking, and violence. They run the streets of Trenton, New Jersey, as well as other smaller cities, and that's a picture of them on the bottom left. As you can see, a firearm is involved in this picture, so you kind of get the feeling of what they're all about. And then the gang member on the left is also throwing up their gang sign, which is also an easy way to know that they're part of that gang in particular. And then the picture on the right that I've included is of the Bloods, which is an African American gang. As you can see, most of the people pictured here are of a younger age group. So most of the time, like I said, Gangs recruit while the kids are younger, and then as they grow up, they go up the chain of command and then eventually become leaders in the group. So why would you want to join a gang? Most youth gangs come at a time of great social change or instability. Most join to give an elite status, so they want to be a part of something that's bigger to them. Some join to feel like they are part of a community or a new family. We'll get to that in a second. It can act as a way to provide for themselves and their family as well, especially with narcotics distribution and firearms trafficking. And then as a whole, it creates that sense of brotherhood and sisterhood. So referencing the table I have on the bottom right, you can see that there's other reasons to join a gang, such as creating that pseudo family, like I said, especially if their actual family is broken at home. Joining a gang can make them feel like they're a part of something and that they can actually make a difference with their brothers and sisters. And then another one that I want you to focus on is number 6, which is media influence. This is a relatively newer concept, and with the massive influx of social media and the massive presence of social media, joining a gang and being able to boast about it on social media can give kids a sense of power and then a sense of pride in their gang as well, and that's becoming a newer thing. So finally, I want to talk a little bit about prevention. So preventing kids from joining a youth gang and living a life of crime. So the biggest thing we have to do is address the real risks of joining a gang by telling our youth that you can be locked away for X amount of time, and then you can even wind up dead. You also want to reinforce the families that are in need. Like I said, most gang members join because they come from a broken home, broken family. Either parents are divorced or mom or dad left. And so we need to reinforce those family values at home. You need to improve the community level of supervision in our youth. And this could be done by creating more programs, especially in the inner cities, to give kids more things to do. An example of that would be the bottom left picture I have here. This is the Ventura County Sheriff Explorer Program. That's one of the ways kids can stay away from crime and actually prevent it by joining their local Explorer post or taking part in after-school extracurricular activities or playing sports. I know that's another big one as well. So more of those programs need to be created and utilized by our youth. We need to also educate the public on how to safely deal with talking to our youth. You need to be able to persuade kids in the right way and not necessarily reprimand them, but tell them the risks of joining a gang in a more comforting way, in a way that they can relate to. And the bottom line is that we have to act in our youth's best interest. So I want to leave you off with a thought on the bottom right, which is there needs to be 2 types of programs. One of these programs needs to be targeted at prevention, and the target population to be at-risk youth, so any kid that's at risk of joining a gang. And then there also needs to be programs put in place targeted at people or youth that have already crossed the line and become delinquent. And those programs that need to be targeted at the at-risk youth are things like joining those after-school programs, whereas for kids that are actually already part of a youth gang or delinquent, there needs to be programs put in place to either send them to rehab or a halfway home, or something that's different than sentencing them to jail where they may not learn as much. So that's my presentation on youth gangs. I want to thank you for listening and hope you have a wonderful day.